Hi, everyone. This is Phil Garrett with Cranked Up Films and Cranked Up TV. Welcome to our first episode of Filmmaker Spotlight, where we will be talking with independent filmmakers who have films on Cranked Up TV. This first episode, we're talking with Calvin McCarthy. He has 8 films on Cranked Up TV. We've partnered with Breaking Glass Pictures to bring Calvin's films onto Cranked Up TV. And we're really lucky to have Calvin because he's a super, super busy filmmaker based in Portland, Oregon. He has made 12 or 13 films over the last 5 years or so, features as a director. And he's going to tell us all about his process as a filmmaker, talk about some of his favorite productions, and share a little bit about his newest film, The Lizzie Borden Game, that's been out available for purchase or rental for a while. And as of today, Monday, August 11th, it will be streaming exclusively on Cranked Up TV through the end of September. So welcome, Calvin.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for making the time to do this, because I know you got a lot going on right now, between the release of a new film tomorrow, a film that's in post, and lots of other stuff we want to talk about.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like you're busy and you're not busy in this industry at the same time. It's just kind of feast or famine. So yeah, I'm really excited to have Lizzie Borden premiere on the Lizzie Borden Game premiere on Cranked Up TV. Really looking forward to that. And you say that I'm busy, but I feel like I could be busier. I feel like there's other stuff I could be doing.
Your new film, The Lizzie Borden Game, it comes out today. Which is the anniversary of the arrest of Lizzie Borden. Is that right?
Oh, is it really? That's really cool. I didn't realize that. Yeah. It's interesting when you finish a film officially and kind of give it to the distributor, because to me, Lizzie Borden was so long ago that, it might as well have almost not even happened. I know that's kind of a crazy thing to say, but we do make a lot of these lower budget indie horror films. So for me, with it releasing, it's kind of like, oh wow, yeah, Lizzie Borden. I guess it hasn't really been out, and people haven't really gotten a chance to see it as much yet.
You don't know who Lizzie Borden is?
I'm a foreigner, you twats. I mean, did you not learn who that was?
Have you seen this article? They still haven't found those 2 girls. Do you remember playing that game when we were kids?
What game?
The Lizzie Borden game.
Oh, the Lizzie Borden game. I used to play that with my brothers on Halloween.
You said this thing's a game, right? So how do you play? What is it? I think it's just Mom. What? I don't want anyone else to die because of me. Are you crazy? We have to finish the game. Kyle is dead. I have to call the police. What's the worst that could happen playing a stupid Halloween game?
Tell us about this movie, and yeah, tell us how did you come up with this idea, and how did you put the script together, and what was the project process like?
Yeah, it was really interesting how this one came together. It came together really quickly. I was actually working on another outline for a script, something that I still haven't even finished the script for, a film called Missing 411. And while I was doing it, I was kind of complaining to somebody, thinking, oh gosh, nobody's. I don't know that anyone's going to pick this up necessarily. And I was going, gosh, maybe I ought to work on something a little bit more marketable. And just offhand, I said, like some like Lizzie Borden slasher movie. And I continued to work, and that would just got kind of stuck in my head. And I thought, well, I know that there's like a Christina Ricci film, but I wonder if anyone has actually done like Jason Voorhees, but Lizzie Borden, because like badass girl with an axe. She comes pre-built with a weapon. That everybody kind of knows the lore. She like bludgeons like overkill, right? 41 whacks. She like disfigures people. That's great. So, but actually, like a movie that I did, I guess that you guys carry, Pillow Party Massacre. I had this moment early on where I thought, oh, that's already a thing. Somebody already did that. Somebody had to have done that. Then through looking it up, you go, oh, you know what? Not really. Kind of. There were some in like the early 2000s that were like really kind of grungier, low budget movie. But no one's really done this. And it was just instantly one of those concepts that was that's happened a few times to me, where I thought, oh, this is just like way too hot to let go. And I just like shoved everything aside and sat down and wrote an outline for it. Very much, wanted to do, Jason Voorhees, Friday the 13th, Lizzie Borden thing. And, kind of ripped off Candyman a little bit. I had to figure out how does she show up and kill these people? And there's got to be some rules. But it just all kind of came together so quickly. And there's a lot of like, I think there's like some like obvious tropes that are in a lot of horror films. But, to me in the moment, I just thought that it was like too fun of an idea to, get down on the fact that, there's, there's people in an isolated location getting killed by a slasher, and thought, don't worry too much about that. Kind of get this concept out, because I think that it's really fun. And there's not a ton of female slashers, and especially female slashers who will, kind of have this like bloodlust to them. So everything just kind of came together really, really quickly. The script was written quickly, got it over to a distributor. They also kind of, I think, said the same thing. And, I definitely screamed it on the phone. Like, no one has done this. No, we got to do this today, and, the pre-production process for that one was really tough. There was a whole other location that I'm still to this day. I'm mad that we didn't get. I'm so bummed that we didn't shoot it in the location that I wanted to shoot in. And it was like last second that we found that kind of castle that's in Eugene, Oregon. And the homeowner was super cool, and he let us shoot there. But it was like, it was so, and it was very low budget, and it was just so like go that it was a lot of fun. But at the same time, it was that pre-production up to like the first day was kind of a nightmare to do.
Yeah.
Shot it in the winter in the Northwest too, so it was just rough.
Winter shoots are a challenge. For sure. Well, I love what you did with the story and how you bring her into the modern age. So you are getting the slasher, you're getting female slasher, you're getting supernatural, you're getting sort of the group dynamics, you're getting all of that stuff mixed together. And also because you're working on the indie level, you're working with a more limited budget and resources, that you didn't attempt a period piece, that you worked with what you felt you'd be able to achieve, which is really smart.
It was really important to us too, though, to have flashback stuff that is period. So there are period segments in the film, and we knew that, right, we didn't have the funds to do it for the whole shoot, but I figured we had money to do it for one day. So flashback stuff was done in one day.
Yeah.
In Woodburn, Oregon. There's like this turn of the century Victorian house, and there's like a museum actually. And I mean, I was just like begging these people at this museum, like, oh, for the love of God, please let me shoot this Lizzie Borden thing here. And they were super cool and let us do it. But that was also, right, that just kind of added to this, like, this kind of chaotic, super run and gun indie mentality that we had to have on that one.
So for folks tuning in who haven't yet watched the Lizzie Borden game, what are they in for?
I think that they're in for a movie that is just supposed to be fun. I hope that it is getting to the action right away. I do really enjoy the opening of the film. The opening stuff is some of my favorite and was like my favorite to shoot. And I knew that I wanted the movie to immediately kind of have this like, oh, whoa, they went there, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that, you're in for a lot of gore, some fun supernatural stuff. I think, our lighting designer's lighting is still great in that, even for such a rushed production. And there's a little bit of my favorite director. There's a little bit of Fulci influence to a couple little moments in that movie. So you'll still kind of see a little bit of my my parasitic stealing from my favorite director and like tossing it in the film. So it's got a little Fulci to it.
Lizzie Borden game coming out today. Let's talk a little bit about your filmography, your past films, and I'd like you to dig in a little bit on The Boogeyman and those two films you have out now and a new project you have coming up.
So, we try to just stay as busy as we can and move on to different projects. And we work a lot in the commercial industry out here in Portland, Oregon. So, yeah, it's funny it feels like ages ago that we finished it. I'm also currently in post on the third Boogeyman film that we've made here at 7th Street Productions. It's called Evidence of the Boogeyman. It's a sort of quasi found footage mockumentary horror film. We really wanted to complete a trilogy of films here, and it ends up being the most unorthodox trilogy of films that you can possibly think of, going from a anthology horror to a comedy horror to a found footage horror. So I'm really excited to finish that one up. The post-production on that is a lot easier than I thought that it was going to be. I've never made a found footage film before, so it was kind of an experiment for us here, and we knew that we could do it relatively cheap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the found footage films, a lot of people think that you're kind of giving ammunition to the idea that they're easy. But they're still filmed, right? I mean, they still take just as much effort and just as much, planning and.
Yeah, especially if you're not really used to making a film that way, or, none of us really at 7th Street Productions are particularly like the best at social media either. So, and it's got a little bit of that aspect just to kind of keep the cameras rolling and to kind of be able to roll with the punches. And, we incorporated multicam into it, different types of cameras, and really just tried to stay kind of as close to who we are, because I'm in the movie. We are really just playing a film crew that's making a documentary and goes missing. It was very interesting. It definitely wasn't easy, but it was very loose, and it was really fun to work with actors that way. Have the ability to do a lot of improv, and like I said, the post has been a little bit more streamlined, a little more straightforward than I thought it was going to be. I was nervous on set while making that film.
Okay. Just because of the unfamiliarity with the format of found footage.
Yeah, and just the multiple cameras, especially when the characters are doing this sort of like paranormal investigating. Sort of the basic premise of the film is, I don't know if people are aware of like Zach Baggins and his ghost hunting documentaries that he makes. They're wildly entertaining, but they're just kind of so goofy, and it's sort of tongue in cheek. And I just kind of had this vision of that film crew going out and knowing that it's kind of bullshit, just wanting to make a compelling documentary. And it's kind of like, what if they actually fell into like actual paranormal situations? So we had all this different gear and all these cameras rolling, and I thought, God, how am I gonna cut all this footage together? We have 3 times as many, 3 times the amount of footage as we normally would on a normal shoot, and it's not quite as structured.
Right. So a lot of multicam editing then.
Yeah, and there's not I think that the only way you can really do a low budget indie film is if, especially like as low budget as we do sometimes, you have to really be structured out. You have to have your, shot list and sort of a storyboard. And by the time you get into editing, you kind of don't really have to search as much. You know how it's going to be pieced together. With this, I every day on set, multiple times I'd go, I don't know how the hell I'm going to put this together. And it ended up being a lot easier than I thought that it would be.
With the Boogeyman films, it's interesting to hear how it's evolved from part 1 being an anthology to Revenge of the Boogeyman to Evidence of the Boogeyman. Can you talk about that? Maybe tell us a little bit about what was the creative genesis of that? And because it is a concept that we've seen explored many times, or it's something people grew up hearing about or knowing about, or it's some mythical terror. What innovation, what were you trying to do differently with it along this whole path? And then maybe tell us about your process on the filmmaking side.
Yeah, I mean, kind of I guess the first thing that I should preface with those films specifically is a lot of my films kind of fall into 2 different categories. There are films that I write a script and I'm really just in love with the idea of making the film, and I'll stop at nothing to make it. And I'm even willing to have the title changed by a distributor just to get the funds to make it. So it's so near and dear to my heart. And then there are other films, which the Boogeyman films kind of fall into, where I just really think that it's a fun concept. I think that you can make a really fun movie for audiences, and I think that they would be a lot of fun to make. And sometimes it in all honesty, some of those films, it doesn't go much deeper than that. I was, working with Breaking Glass Pictures. They're, one of my favorite distributor to work with. They're so nice. I have such a good relationship with them. And it was right after Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey came out, and everyone was kind of clamoring for doing something based around a character that was like in the public lexicon. Everybody knew and wasn't, you didn't have to pay any rights to do it. And I can remember Rich saying, "Oh, try to think of something like that." And I kind of came on to the boogeyman because everybody knows it, but for the life of me, right, I can't really figure out what the boogeyman does. He doesn't really have rules. He's kind of paranormal. He's a monster. What does he do? Does he eat people? So it just immediately was like this blank slate to where I could work in anything that I really wanted to do. And at 7th Street Productions, I'm the main producer, writer, director, but other people on the team have directed great films, are arguably better at their craft than I am. And I really had a short idea that I wanted to do, and I had a concept of an overall wraparound story. And I thought that my concept for Boogeyman worked better as a short, and the wraparound felt fun to shoot. So I kind of told the team as a deal, we'll take this budget, we'll kind of break it up. I'm going to shoot the wraparound, and I have this short that I want to do. Why don't we all kind of workshop different ideas and have each of you guys direct your own short for the film? And it was just a really good, team bonding experience. It was a good way for me to kind of take a step back and just kind of work as a producer for a significant chunk of the movie. It also gave me the ability to act in the film, which is where I started as a child actor, actually. So it just kind of seemed like a great idea for me, and it gave us the freedom to kind of explore what the hell the 7th Street Productions Boogeyman would do. And then it did relatively well, I think. I know that's a relative term, but Breaking Glass said, "Oh, you should do another one," but we really liked the short that I was the star of, where I was like this gross drug addict who was drinking hand sanitizer because he would get drug tested. He drinks hand sanitizer and then starts hallucinating, and has a big Tom and Jerry battle with the boogeyman. And they said, "Gosh, that should be a feature." So the second one, we ended up just kind of working that short, like expanding on that character, completely changing the situation, and creating a whole feature about this character who's trying to get sober, who's just kind of this piece of garbage, and get him like in an isolated location with some friends who are helping him get sober. And as we were writing the script, there was 3 of us writing that on the team, and it just became a comedy, and we just really played into it, and it was a very small production. So that also was just kind of, we realized in the scripting process that the second one was just not going to be like the first one at all. And then, with this third one, we just, we wanted to do a found footage thing. We hadn't really done one before. And we started kind of coming up with a concept for it. And it was pretty clear early on that we thought, hey, why don't we throw our boogeyman character back in there and like wrap up this franchise in a really bizarre kind of way,
What you're about to see was never meant to be released. This footage was recovered under the Freedom of Information Act, pieced together through damaged hard drives, discarded tapes, and police evidence.
Jim! What the fuck are you guys doing?
And I didn't believe in any of this either, until I saw what they left behind.
Guys, I can't What is that?
This is their story, presented exactly as it was found. Viewer discretion is advised.
So it was very serendipitous how it all kind of came together. It definitely wasn't thought out. There was definitely never a plan to have myself show up in all of them, kind of have like these repeat actors and repeat locations. It just kind of organically came together that way.
That's great, though, that you've got this ensemble, really, what you're talking about, creative folks that are part of your team, and the fact that um, with the anthology, especially, everyone got their hands involved in doing something themselves. Because so many of us, I think, in the business really want to be directors. I mean, it's cliche, but it gives them that chance to exercise other creative muscles.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big like team sports kind of guy too. I really just believe in having a really good team chemistry, and keeping the cast and crew super tight and friends. And shout out to like Eric Shebach and Tim Coyle, Jason Brooks, and Naomi over at Real Fiction Studios. I mean, it's one of those things where, yeah, of course, like, I'm not going to lie. Of course I want to be the director. Of course I want to be the writer. But I have no problem taking a back seat at times. And, I want us like all to succeed together. It's like, of course I want to like win the game, but I want them to win too. I want to like share in it together. Sure. So it's really important to me.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I would say I agree. If people need to kind of love what they do and be invested in doing this work, it's not easy to make a film at all, let alone an independent film on with limited budget and resources, and make something that's entertaining for people. It's a challenge.
We've got to, we got to like live together. We rent like one Airbnb and we cram everyone in there, so much so that on the bigger ones, bigger cast and crew, the whole camera department, me and Eric and Tim, we sleep in the same room. Like we'll like share a bed and sleep like married couple and a dog at the foot of the bed. So there's just no way to do this with people who you're not super close with. I mean, we're all up in each other's business all day, every day. So, keeping the team together and keeping everybody happy and feeling like they're involved and like they have a say in what happens. It just makes it makes the experience better, but I think that it makes the film more enjoyable too.
Yeah. Obviously, all the advantages of that you've spoken about how you're kind of a cohesive team and you work together all on the same page, and you all have the same goal in mind. What are the challenges that you find in making independent films as a writer, producer, director, actor?
It's kind of the obvious one is just funding. We own all of our own equipment. We work in a market that's pretty cheap to make independent films, but people need to get paid, and you need time to make a movie. For example, our lighting designer is incredible, and we have all the equipment to do it. But if we don't have the time, if we only have X amount of dollars and we have to shoot it in 11 days because we have 5 actors. That's just as far as the money will stretch. Certain things have to get sacrificed. Setup sort of have to get sacrificed. The ability to do bigger action sequences have to get sacrificed. So the most challenging thing for us is we know, because we work on other projects, we get hired for commercials and bigger films. Our entire team does all together, and we know that with money and time that we can put stuff out that looks incredible. We know what we're capable of doing, but when you're staring at the clock all the time because of money, that's the most challenging part. It's really hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard to have to make that call as the director and say, no, Tim, it looks fine. And he'll go, but I want to fix it. And it's like, nope, we got to go now.
Yeah.
That's the most challenging part.
Yeah. 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 More days you have, the more time you have. And of course, money facilitates all of that. Yeah. So for, I don't know who else is going to see this. My hope is that some filmmakers of all sort of the whole spectrum of filmmaking might take a look at this. But for those who are more on the starting out side or the less experienced side or the very indie side, what would you say about how pre-production and the planning of that, the planning side of pre-production really helps facilitate sort of the maximum efficiency of the days you have?
Yeah.
Like what do you do? What's your approach to pre-production so that you're not wasting time?
Yeah, I mean, pre-production is to me is the hardest job. It's the most important job. It's actually a process that I like to have as much time as possible, no matter how small the budget is. Sometimes even when I write a script, even if it doesn't get made, I do kind of a lot of legwork on the pre-production just so I have stuff mapped out already in the off chance that, a distributor wants to make the film. It's just the only way you can do it. I mean, it's just, shot list, storyboard. Sometimes I even make an editing, I'll sit around and edit the movie in my head and come up with an editing list, going through the script, and you and your assistant director or somebody else on crew making a list of every prop and costume that's mentioned in the script, even if you already have it, or even if it's so and so needs a cup, and it's well, we can get a cup. And no, write all that stuff down, no matter how not important it is, and just go over it with a fine-tooth comb constantly. It's a hard process. It's my least favorite part of the process, but I just will, for at least a month, sit around and really fantasize about each day and make up conversations in my head with different people on the crew. And just so when I'm there, it's nobody's going to throw me a curveball or ask a question, that I don't have an answer to. And inevitably it still happens, but you feel so ready to go. You kind of just drive yourself crazy with it so much to the point where, you get there and it's second nature. You've fantasized about the second you start unloading the gear, for a month.
So it sounds like you're really following the tenets of tried and true pre-production processes.
Yeah, I mean, as much as you can. I think that we're still a pretty unorthodox group, but I'm the idea of uncertainty always scares me with anything in my life. It's a little bit of that constant nightmare that I still have from being in theater and not knowing my lines when I go on stage. It's kind of that equivalent, and it's a terrifying thought to not know exactly what I'm going to do, where I'm going to go, to the point where you almost kind of feel like, in a sense, you're almost your own assistant director in that way. You know exactly how long something should be taking you.
I think it's great for other filmmakers to hear that, you're doing what they're doing. It's like, this is, I think, especially for young filmmakers, there's something about demystifying the process so that they know that they really can do it. And to hear to hear it echoed back from somebody who's made, how many films have you directed now?
I don't really know. I think like 13 or 14, maybe more, but some of those were like older films where I was just trying to figure out how to make a feature film. Yeah, a few. I will say, my biggest piece of advice that I always give, if I had to give some unique advice to an independent filmmaker or an independent producer, would be to go work in sales for a little while. Go work in sales and business development. For my 20s, I did a lot of this kind of part-time. My business was a part-time thing, and part-time to full-time, I was working in sales and business development, especially like business to business sales, and just getting really used to talking to other businesses, getting comfortable on the phone, trying to understand what people want, like what other businesses want out of a product. And also realizing that, I think sometimes with independent filmmakers, you're like, well, this is my baby, and I want to do this. I want everything to be perfect, and I know I want you to use my poster, all that kind of stuff. And sometimes they feel slighted by another business or a distributor, and they kind of take it personally. And I think when you work in sales and business development, you realize that nothing's personal. It's, they need something out of this too. It's a symbiotic relationship, and realizing in sales that, sometimes there's like a bad deal or a no deal. And sometimes you're going to end up taking a bad deal. Someone's going to be on that side of it. And that's that's totally okay, to be in that situation. And sometimes it's just about striking a deal so that everybody can kind of get what they want out of the situation, and learning how to compromise kind of in more of a business sense, and removing your like love for the product out of it for a second. I think that's really important and beneficial.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's great. You're right on. I mean, I think whether it's working in sales or business development or something like that, but learning to communicate with other people, both your creative team and the people who are helping you to make the film, but also with distributors and potential investors, or sometimes they're the same. But and understanding that, I think what's really important, especially for independent films, where you're let's just face it, you're using other people's money to make movies, and I think that's all the way up the chain to something like Superman. You have a fiduciary responsibility in a way. So you are, of course, working and trying to make the best movie you can make for yourself, but also a film that has a chance of making its money back. There's a responsibility there, I think sometimes filmmakers lose sight of. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I definitely think that's true. I do run into situations a lot of times, even as an actor, but also just hearing from other distributors that I work with, that they'll work with filmmakers who their sort of due date for the film was 6 months ago, and they're still like trying to get it perfect. And sometimes what's most important is to deliver on your promise rather than making it perfect in your eyes. And I understand how hard it is as an actor or as an artist to say the project is done, even if you don't feel perfectly about it, or you want to take all the time in the world to get this shot lit just perfectly. But like you said, you're a fiduciary. You're responsible for so many things, and sometimes I've listed it out before, even when we were doing Boogeyman, that it's like, kind of what's most important is like what the financier wants is kind of most important. And it's like what the audience and the crew and cast want, and then it's what you want. Like you're like actually third in line of most important here as far as, your preference on a situation,
Well, that certainly is dependent upon the type of relationship you have with with whomever is funding the film, right? So if you're going with the distributor and the distributor says, you mentioned bring that character back,
Right.
from Beware the Boogeyman, they wanted something about the character you played, and so you were delivering on their desire to do that.
Right.
And at the same time, I mean, that was number one. It's almost like it's like a commissioned project in a way. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. And there's a fair amount of that to varying degrees. And sometimes it's vague and you have a lot of room to play, right? Initially, they just said, find a popular character that we don't have to pay for and make a movie based around it. I'm sure I could have made a Dracula film if that's really, where my mind was in the moment. So there's still a lot of freedom, but sometimes it's like whatever it is, you got to have this like druggy guy who drinks hand sanitizer. You got to like bring back, and then you start. Well, we can't do that again. Maybe he drinks, degreaser from under the sink. Like we got to think of something new.
But so there is a marked difference between something like that and, let's say, a spec script that you either take to a distributor that you've worked with in the past, or a spec script where you've gone out and you've independently raised money for that. In your earlier films or films you haven't done, like some of the Breaking Glass pictures, is that something you've done? Have you seen it?
I'm always, the only thing about those that have changed, and it's something that I don't really care about all that much, as long as I get to make the movie that I want to make, is getting the title changed. So, Insidious Inferno was originally Door to the Inferno, and it's one of my favorite things that I've made. Conjuring the Cult was originally had a ridiculous title, which was Demonia Death Cult. But those are movies that are really, really like special to me, and are the exact movie that I wanted to make. A Haunting in Ravenwood is also very much like that. And those, I don't mean like I love everything that I've ever made, but those ones, I was a lot more picky with and made sure that I was able to take the time that I wanted to. Insidious Inferno got a little screwed up with some of the effects at the time, but other than that, those are kind of a completely different animal, and I have a number of scripts like that that I'm still trying to get made. But sometimes it's easier to get the fun one made just because it kind of sells itself.
Sure, it's entertainment driven from the get go, right? Quick question about that. You mentioned some effects challenges on Insidious Inferno. So what do you do as a filmmaker when you run into something like that? How do you pivot, and what do you do to like recover from that?
Yeah, it really takes the team coming together. You really see like who's willing to fight for it when it's like we all got hit. You know what I mean? How hard you're willing to fight when you get punched.
Yeah.
And I've never been more in love with the people that I work with, because you really saw everyone kind of band together and almost like there was a very specific moment where we all kind of had to huddle up and go, all right, we've got to figure this out. We have to pivot and be creative here. And I think that we did a really good job. And some people really stepped up and did all they could with very little resources. I think like one of the effects in that is like yarn and string cheese and blood. It was how do we do this effect now? Because we just didn't have the material because of the like a circumstance that had happened.
Yeah. No, I understand. We had a similar situation on a film where we had to change the way a character was going to die from something that was happening. He was swimming in a body of water, but it was really, really cold out, like really cold out. And we had, the director came up with another idea of how he would pass and I would get killed. And so then it was like Andy, the other producer here, came up with an idea that involved a power drill and a shredded paper plate, and a trough of fake blood, and that's how you splatter someone with blood on the fly, right?
Yeah, it is cool to see everyone be really creative in the moment, and I mean that whole movie. I think everybody's kill is different from what it was in the script and the original storyboard, and it's like, I mean, there was definitely a moment on that shoot where I was going, oh shit, what are we going to do?
Yeah, it sounds familiar. It's happened. Yeah.
Listen, I appreciate that this is difficult for you, honey.
No, it's not difficult. We're just gonna help renovate a crummy little house to be sold, and that's how I want to keep it. It's just like any other project. I haven't given this place a single moment's thought in 7 years, because every moment I spent there, it's been nothing but trouble.
I just don't like this place.
Look, if it were up to me, I'd burn the fucking place to the ground.
I keep seeing this young blind woman.
A blind woman?
I see her wandering along the forest edge.
That's right where my camp is at. And I'm telling you, I've never seen no blind woman.
Andre, I've been waiting for you.
Listen, I am really worried about her. All right, you gotta understand, this is not like her at all. Johnny, you should have seen the look in her eyes.
Said, get out!
You're losing it, Monica.
We cannot stop the forces which dwell beyond from influencing Monica. We must take her away from that house.
Try me, what do you see?
I see the dead. The city of the dead.
Please! Andre! Don't let the rat influence you!
Stop. What are you talking?
He's dead! What is wrong? Playing with Snicker Snap!
Humans are a lot like flowers, so beautiful, but they die so easily.
You bring a level of a look and feel and production value that you don't often see with movies that are made for those budgets. So I'm curious, I'm just curious about that. I'm curious about, like, was there a favorite or the best experience you've had so far? And also, one thing I noticed is like I look at like, how are people talking about the movies? And it seems like Amityville Poltergeist has gotten the best reception of a lot of your films.
Oh man, Yeah.
Which is not. I mean, we all, you know, put up with the slings and arrows of the internet, but that one seems to be one where people really, you know.
I think
So
the only reason people came back around to Amityville Poltergeist is because of all the like cynically made Amityville
yeah,
that were made.
yeah,
There, I think people like hated it at first, but yeah, I mean, the internet's just a funny place. I'm just nice to people, really, even when they have bad things to say.
yeah. Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about you know, maybe I'll ask you, you know, of all your films, which would you say was like the most well, we don't have to get in. You talked about how Insidious is like your favorite project,
Yeah.
unless there's something you want to say about it, and then you want to say, yeah, dealing with I don't know if we want to. Do you want to get into like talking about feedback and dealing with the internet and all that? Or?
Yeah, I'm game for it.
Okay.
I feel like I have a pretty good attitude about about
Okay.
this.
All right. Well, then let's then let's talk about that. All right. I always got coffee. I have Diet Coke. I had to have two different containers on standby.
I'm a true Portlander. It's nicotine and coffee, black coffee. Ugh.
Drink a lot of coffee, but it's also 10 at night here. So, okay. So I'll ask you about that. I'll say, you've made all these films. How do you as a director respond to, I don't even know how to ask the question. I don't want to say respond just to criticism or something, but how your films are received, Calvin, you made a lot of films over a relatively short period of time. And so they're all out there in the world. People are seeing them. How do you as a filmmaker, how do you take in the kind of response you get from people who've seen the films? How do you process whether it's really positive feedback or it's criticism? Like what's your process of processing?
Yeah, I mean, I've grown up with the internet. I understand. I kind of understand troll. I'm also just a horror movie fan too. I have a YouTube channel. I like to review movies that I like, and I totally get that it's way more fun to goof on a movie than it is to say, oh yeah, it was pretty good. It was pretty good for what it was. So, I'm always really nice to people who leave, bad comments or send bad emails. I get them, people trying to, sometimes they're just being mean and, trying to destroy your soul. But I still thank them for watching the movie. And then, like legitimate criticism, I think is totally fair. These are our low budget movies. I'm very honest with people and just say, we are doing the absolute best we can do for the very low budgets that we have. And I'm not claiming that these are like perfect movies. And I think also that if people are having fun with them in a way to goof on them, and if I just kind of get caught in the crossfire, that's like totally cool for me. If people want to make fun of them. And I think that we've gotten some really cool, like good reception. But some of our films have gotten really, really good reviews. Actually, Insidious Inferno got written up in the New York Times when it came out. They did an article of the top 5 best horror movies to stream that just came out for the month of October for Halloween, and we got put on that list. And that movie was made for like $35,000, and the other movies on the list were like and so I think that we get a lot of fair criticism, I think good and bad, and we probably get unfair good criticism too, because someone might just kind of dig what we do over here. And we get people who are just trying to make us mad too. But I make sure that I warn actors too. as being an actor, I know that, not most of the stuff you do is never really going to get seen. And the one thing that I can promise all of these actors is, oh, you're going to be seen. People are going to watch this, say something about it. So I like tell people, just have fun with it. People are going to goof on you, but the kind of reassuring thing that I tell, especially actors, is, it's kind of like the guy in the stands telling like the worst player in the NBA that he sucks. And it's like, well, you're on the court right now. Like those guys are in the stands. They're watching you. So, you're here, you're in a movie, you're doing a good job and you're playing your role, So to me, it doesn't bug me. I kind of like it. It's another piece of advice that I give any artist is like, just put it out there and like, just let people tear you apart. It's good for you. It'll build character, You won't see anymore either. Because after the first one, everyone's going to already say, you're not going to hear anything new from anybody,
Sure.
Like,
Sure.
that sucks.
Well, I mean, just in this time that we're in with how the internet is a bit of a free for all. Anyone can say anything, anytime. It's fascinating. What I really love about the films is like they're made in that spirit. You talked about their entertainment forward. You're trying to make movies that are fun for people to watch. I mean, with a name like Mutant Vampires from the planet Neptune, how can you not think that you're going to have a good time watching that movie?
Yeah, that's a love letter to Don Dohler. I don't know if you're a Don Dohler movie fan, like Night Beast and the Galaxy Invader and stuff, but Don Dohler movie, and that was just kind of one of those. That's another sort of one of my favorites, I suppose. I love them all equally. I would say on Cranked Up TV, the other one that I wish more people would watch is A Haunting in Ravenwood. Really like that one just because, I'm just a horror movie like freak first. I have a media library in my house that takes up an entire room. VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, and old Dark House movies are some of my favorites.
Yeah.
So, that's really like, I basically just took House on Haunted Hill, Screaming Skull, and Terror in the Haunted House and just went and just like smashed it together because that was the first one that I did for Breaking Glass. And I thought, well, they may never want to work with me again, so I'm just going to do whatever I want. And
clearly it worked.
Yeah,
right?
it ended up working out just fine.
You got invited back. So that's good. That's great. I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to talk about your body of work, or I don't know if there's anything else that you would like to talk about. And then I'd like to go back and redo the opening, and then I'd like to talk about Lizzie. Now, what order these end up getting cut together in, who knows? But
maybe just really quickly, just a couple of things about some stuff that we're working on. Hopefully with any luck, I've started working with a couple of producers, Brad Littlefield, Randy Klinenberg, and J. Todd Harris, who's the producer of Jeepers Creepers and Piranha 3D. And we're trying to do a much bigger budget film for me. Brad Littlefield acquired the rights to a J-horror film called Osoi Hito. I rewrote the English remake as Late Bloomer, and we have a number of actors who have already signed on to it. We're just kind of now looking to get the rest of the funds together to make it. And the script went to Cannes. I don't consider myself like a great writer. I enjoy writing, but that was really surreal for me to have my script go to Cannes and get pitched at an event. So, keep an eye out for that. There's some press for Late Bloomer out and about. And I have I have a couple micro budget films, but there's one specific one called Moths in the Walls. So if there's anybody out there who wants to get involved, I it's kind of a spiritual sequel, like a sister. I haven't made a lot of sequels. They're just kind of like sister films. I think of sibling films, and it's like a sibling film to Insidious, Inferno, and Haunting in Ravenwood, and just with some personal stuff that happened in my life as of recent. I'm really really kind of like in psycho attack mode to make that movie too. So I've been pushing that everywhere. Trying to
Moths in the Walls.
Moths in the Walls, yeah.
Moths in the Wall. Okay, all right. All right, cool. Awesome. Any parting words for horror fans, horror filmmakers?
Yeah, horror fans, I don't know. I love you guys. I'm just kind of one of you guys. So I hope that that you find some entertainment out of these films, and definitely visit 7thstreetfilms.com and find me on Instagram and Facebook. And I always like to I take the time all the time to write people back and converse with people about films, and whatever. I love the community so much. Go to Crypticon Seattle. I'm there every year. And then other horror filmmakers, or just filmmakers in general, just keep going, just keep doing it, despite what limitations you have, or whoever says to stop. Either that or like get the hell out of my way.
Understood. There you go.
And honestly, I forgot to say this, that it's I can't express how much of an honor it truly is, and how thankful I am. I feel like I owe you guys a debt of gratitude for something like this, because I've been just a horror movie junkie my entire life. And my goals as a filmmaker, I think, are maybe a little bit different from other filmmakers out there potentially. And there had been a couple of articles recently calling me a cult filmmaker, which was really cool. It was like one of the most special moments in my kind of career this far. And to have you guys create an entire page for me, like a subcategory for me, is like absolute dream come true. It's really to me. It really means a lot to me. And it's like this and Vinegar Syndrome releasing one of my movies on a Blu-ray. It's like those two things are like the coolest thing that's ever happened in my pathetic life. So I'm really, really thankful. And I think that it's really cool.
Oh, well, the pleasure is mine in putting these filmmaker spotlights together. And it's kind of like it came together very quickly. And well, the idea evolved over time, because being a filmmaker forward streaming service, and a home for truly independent horror movies, and horror adjacent stuff, sci-fi and sci-fi horror, is being filmmaker forward is really important to us, and highlighting filmmakers along the way is part of that. For me, it's the kind of thing I've always tried to do or wanted to do. Whether somebody's out there, they've been just grinding it out and making film after film after film, or if they're just starting out, because I know it sounds corny to say, but we are kind of all in this thing together, and I love that it's a supportive community. But yeah, it was kind of happenstance too when we have this really great relationship with Breaking Glass Films, and we have 8 of your films, and we also have 6 films from Chad Farron, who's another indie director based in LA. And we have 4 from Alice Mayo McKay, who's an Australian filmmaker. I have enjoyed putting together the Filmmaker Spotlight, and I'm glad that we had this chance to talk to each other and start this whole ball rolling. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, it's really cool. Really cool what you guys are doing.
Don't forget to check out Calvin's films on Cranked Up TV. We've got 8 of them. We've got Amityville Poltergeist, Mutant Vampires from the Planet Neptune, which I think is just an incredibly fun title. A Haunting in Ravenwood, Pillow Party Massacre, Insidious Inferno, Beware the Boogeyman, Revenge of the Boogeyman, and of course, the Lizzie Borden game. And hopefully we'll be adding more soon. Yeah. I want to see a cut of the evidence of the Boogeyman when you've got it together. I'm really excited about that. I'm excited for you. So.
I'll probably send you a rough cut here soon, too.
Excellent. Well, thanks for joining us on this inaugural episode of Filmmaker Spotlight on Cranked Up TV. Thanks for making the time. For everybody watching, don't forget to go check out Cranked Up TV if you're not already a subscriber. We have a 7-day free trial. It's a horror streaming service put together by and curated by horror fans and horror filmmakers. It is a subscription service, so there are no ads. We always say no ads ever, because we hate ads, because they disrupt the flow of your film, and you're watching moments of your life tick away. So there you go. Thank you so much, everyone, and we'll see you next time.